Welcome. Welcome everyone to the PEFC Geolocation, Due Diligence, Data Transfer, how PEFC and its technology partners support EUDR compliance, your EUDR compliance. We have again a variation of good morning, good afternoon, and good evening this afternoon for us here based in Central Europe. Overall, we had a morning session, and between the two sessions, we had over 1,200 registrations, so it's pretty again popular. So thank you for joining this webinar. You will see that it's quite dense. We have an hour and a half packed of information for you, and of course with the objective to help you understand the choice that you have through PEFC, the choice of technology partners to enable this EUDR compliance from a data perspective. The webinar is conducted in English. However, you can also benefit and have it in French. So you need to look at the bottom of your screen for the interpretation icon and choose the French channel. So that's that. In terms of the Q&A, please, you can drop your question. Again, you will see a Q&A icon. You can drop your question as we go along throughout the webinar, and we will keep some time at the end for the Q&A session and potentially also answer some questions as we go along. But already I invite you to drop your questions. If your questions are dedicated to one particular specific speaker, then please use their name. This webinar is recorded, and we will share the slides after. So today I'm joined by two of my colleagues, Maya Adecha and Rob Shaw. Maya will give you an update on the latest status from the European Commission on EUDR, and then Rob will take over the bulk of the moderating of the webinar. He will also give you an overview on how PEFC EUDR compliance solution works. We are pleased to host our technology partners. We did announce 10, but actually you will see on the slides that there are 9 of them. We had a late apology from one of them, which gives us a bit more time. So it's all fine from that perspective. So what remains me to say for those of you who are not familiar with PEFC, PEFC is a leading global forest certification non-for-profit organization. We account for 75% of all global certified forests, which represent 300 million hectares of certified forests globally. And the timber traceability throughout the supply chain is achieved through 30,000 PEFC chain of custody certified production sites. Having said all of this short introduction, now I would like to hand the floor to Maya. Maya, over to you for the EU Commission latest update.
Thank you, Fabienne. Greetings to everyone from my side. We're just moving the slides. So I'll give you the latest update from the EU level, starting with the refreshment of the EUDR timeline. So as you know very well, we're 8 months ahead of the application start. This was agreed following the legislative changes that were approved in December 2024, where EU co-legislators granted additional 12 months for the preparation time. You may also know that in that same context, only basically the new dates were approved and no other content. So at the moment, we are still with 3 country benchmark categories, and geolocation is still a requirement. So EUDR was also not included in the EU Omnibus, the first and second package, which were submitted earlier this year, which means that the 2 key dates for all of us remain 30th December 2025 for the bigger players and 30th June 2026 for the smaller ones where applicable. Moving now to the EUDR implementation tools, we have some very fresh updates. Starting with the guidance document and the frequently asked questions, we received updated versions just 2 days ago. Then we have a functioning information system where you will submit DDS statements. We have global forest mapping in a form of EU Forest Observatory. We have strategic framework for international cooperation engagement, and we have a new document on supply chain scenarios. Still pending are country benchmarking decisions. The Commission has communicated that those will be published at the latest by 30th June this year, and the EUDR review. In view of time, we will just look at a few of the updated implementation tools, starting with the guidance document. So the new second edition improves clarity of our understanding of EUDR. As you may know, this document is not legally binding and should not be considered in isolation, of course. But the new version improves clarity on application timelines and on the precision of the provisions for operators and traders. The Commission has communicated that any simplifications that will come in the context of EUDR will be communicated through the guidance document, but also through the FAQ document. In this case, we have the 4th iteration, which was also published this week. And this new version provides some updates, or quite many updates, actually, to the answers that were previously already addressed, but also offers some new questions and answers that really stretch across all topics. And I invite you to review the document, which is available online. Then we have a functioning information system for your due diligence statements. There's a live server operating where the statements can already be submitted and they have a legal value. And there is a training server acceptance to help everyone to familiarize ourselves with the system. There's also an implementing regulation available and technical specifications for the API, all available online. The Commission is organizing training sessions, and a new batch of dates for April was published online, and you're invited to register. And there are also training videos available online for everyone. We have a document that addresses EUDR compliance scenarios. This document is now a few weeks old. In essence, there you can find scenarios that provide overview of the level of due diligence obligations, depending on the type of the company, its position in the supply chain, and size. So different scenarios, also interesting to review. And then finally, the last update is a draft delegated act, which amends Annex 1 of the EUDR. So Annex 1 addresses the scope of the EUDR. The Commission has opened a consultation for public feedback, which is open until 13 May. And this delegated act introduces targeted and limited technical fixes to the list of relevant products, and it clarifies the range of products that are not covered by the regulation. So if you review the document, you will also find some further references to wood, rubber, waste, packing material, and printed materials. And of course, if of interest, the Commission invites everyone to participate in this consultation. And this is all from my side, and I give the word to Rob. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maya. Hello, everyone. My name's Rob Shaw, and I am the Head of Standards and Integrity at PEFC International. Very pleased to see you all online today, and I hope we're going to have a constructive session. I will shortly go on to introduce our technology partners who are going to tell you about their products and services. First, I'm just going to talk you through this graphic, this slide, which describes how PEFC has been working on solutions for EUDR alignment over the last 2 years. So starting on the left-hand side, in terms of sustainable forest management, we published our EUDR aligned international benchmark standard, ST1003, last year. And we are currently going through an alignment process of our national sustainable forest management systems. As of today, we have 3 countries through this process: Chile, France, and Uruguay. And we have about 8 or 10 other of our national systems in process at the moment. And what this means for each country and the certified forests is that once those systems are aligned and the certification bodies are carrying out audits, then forest products coming out of those forests will be EUDR aligned and will pass quite rapidly through the due diligence system of our chain of custody scheme. Those countries who are not yet aligned, the material can still pass through the chain of custody due diligence system, but it will have a slightly different route. And we expect this alignment process to take perhaps a further year from today in all of our 47 endorsed sustainable forest management systems. Moving on to our chain of custody scheme. Last year, we published our EUDR due diligence system modular standard, which sits on top of our chain of custody standard. And in the European accreditation zone, or the EA zone, we are coming to the end of our approval process. We hope this will be ready in May. And that means that certification bodies who operate in the EA area, which is geographically Europe, will be rolling out this product to the market. And that means that certified organizations can take a scope extension and start using this module to adapt their management systems and manage EUDR aligned material through their chain of custody process. Outside the EA zone, in the rest of the world, we already have 1 certification body accredited, that's Preferred by Nature. So you will see an increase throughout the remainder of 2025 of certified organizations taking this modular scope extension. All of that work, of course, is underpinned by third-party auditing by certification bodies. And we have been very busy training auditors from certification bodies and accreditation body personnel and PEFC personnel from around the world. That's part of tool number 3, where we have had auditors taking tests so that they are confident and competent to audit our EUDR aligned standards. But what we're really here today to learn about is tool number 4, or the way that we have partnered with technology partners. PEFC itself is not going to take control or take a controlling interest in the flow of EUDR related data along the supply chain. Instead, we are partnering with and collaborating with several companies, and they themselves are experts in offering this service. We understand that forestry has very diverse global supply chains, and so we do believe that choice is a good thing. And most of these organizations offer an automated upload to the EUDR database, which is called Traces, but I'll let my colleagues explain this to you. And please do put your questions into the Q&A chat function, and we will either answer them by typing an answer, or we will pick them up in the live Q&A near the end of the session. So at this point, I would like to introduce to you the first of our speakers, and it's Patrick from Airbus. And Patrick, welcome. And I will allow you your 5 minutes, and you can explain how your system works. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Rob. Bonjour tout le monde. Bonjour à tous les participants. Many thanks to PEFC for organizing this webinar and for your invitation to present Starling solutions. So next slide, please. So first, a few words to introduce Starling. So Starling is a cooperation between Airbus, Space Digital Division. We are based in Toulouse. Our legacy business is to operate a fleet of satellites and to develop geospatial applications. And so it's cooperation between Airbus and Earthworm Foundation with the aim to bring together expertise in remote sensing, satellite imagery, supply chain, and forest management. Our objective for more than 10 years now is to support businesses, companies, to deliver on their no deforestation, no conversion commitments. And in an EUDR perspective, we provide a verification component to make sure your products are compliant. So we really focus on making sure that all your material, all the materials that is in scope of EUDR, sticks with EUDR requirements for making this product compliant. We operate Starlink for almost 10 years with the customers all across the supply chains from upstream to downstream. So Starlink is fit for EUDR. We have developed a specific module made up of a web portal on an API to facilitate integration of Starlink into frameworks or platforms your companies are developing to fulfill your obligations. So we have this capability to connect with any traceability tools or any third-party software you position to collect the data and to develop your due diligence system. We offer, of course, a variety of tools to easily manage data flows and transactions with your suppliers and with your clients. One very important point that will be illustrated later in the presentation is that Starlink is using high-quality primary data to analyze risk of deforestation and risk of degradation. We generate our own land cover maps, fully implementing the forest definition as set in the EUDR. And we do this on an annual basis to be able to appreciate land cover evolution and thus land conversions and possible forest degradation at any time from the cutoff date. Next slide, please. So to assess the risk of non-compliance, Starlink performed checks on different topics. First, checks on the data quality, check on the legality, and of course, a verification whether the plots, the sourcing areas as declared by our suppliers is linked to deforestation or to degradations. On top of compliant, non-compliant indicators, we provide company with a range of detailed information attached to every plot in order to facilitate the way the company will use the results to build their own decision-making decision tree for taking actions to submit the due diligence statement in full understanding and full knowledge of what are the issues they may face in the supply chain. We have also the capability to assess whether an area is prone to deforestation and degradation at very different levels of granularity. It can be around any plot of your data collection, can be at collection point level, for example, around the pulp mill, for instance, or at any jurisdictional level. It helps the company to get prepared before to get a shipment and corresponding plot to assess what is the risk of deforestation and degradation linked to this sourcing area. Next slide, please. So just one example to let's say to showcase how it works. Here and of course we'll be happy to run any live demo as necessary in follow-up discussion. Do not hesitate to reach out. So the first image is a Pleiad Neo image, a 30 centimeter resolution, occurred at a date that is very close to EUDR cutoff date, and the pattern is very, very typical of plantation forest, monoculture, intensive management. We use high-resolution data to calibrate our processing to develop land cover map at global scale, also using free data, and also to bring evidence when there is a sensitive case coming out. Next slide, please. So here you have what Starlink is, let's say, is made up. The land cover map we produce every year. So here what you see is a land cover map as at EUDR cutoff date, January 1st, 2021. You have the plot, which is the yellow polygon, and the map is well indicating that it's a plantation forest surrounded by natural forest or regenerating forest. Starlink implements different methodology to look backward and to look forward. Of course, to look backward, we have a permanent monitoring system to observe and to evidence any forest cover change, whatever is the type of forest. We have an evidencing of past conversions and past forest cover change. And we have also a risk-based approach to assess risk of future conversion when it comes that we see clear cutting for a specific, let's say, forest patch and or forest management unit. Next slide. So here there is no risk of past degradation, past deforestation, but Starlink evidences that let's say, the product coming from this plot has been harvested by clear cutting. And here it is where we have developed the methodology to assess whether it brings a risk depending on what was the initial status. If the initial status is plantation forest, it does not bring so much concern for the future. Should the plot be a primary forest, any clear cutting brings compliance issue. Should plot be regenerating forest, we perform a risk assessment to determine whether in the surrounding region is prone to degradation, to help the company to take any proactive and appropriate action to make sure that forest will regenerate as it was and to keep, to keep the plot compliant. Of course, at any time, it can be completed and the company can make a double check using very high resolution imagery as the one you see to evidence what is the situation, what is the case, and to confirm what Starling is telling the company at global scale. So it is where my presentation ends up. And we are happy to, to answer any questions, to develop a demo as necessary. Many thanks, Rob, for the presentation.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Okay, I'm now going to introduce, with a slightly different presentation, and I'm very pleased to introduce him, Martin Smith from Commonshare. So Martin, over to you.
Hey folks. Hi everyone. Thanks for taking time to connect, and Rob and the PEFC team for putting this together. Let me see if I actually have control over this. Maybe we could just go to the next slide. So a little on my background. So I've worked in sustainability for about 20 years, and my last company was focused on honestly helping to market sustainability. So you've probably been on many of the media platforms that we ended up buying and consolidating the space, like CSR Wire or Triple Pundit or Corporate Register. And one of the things that I learned through that process is that most, if not, the majority of data until very recently about social and environmental initiatives was just not accurate. And there's several reasons for that. But one of the reasons that we really saw was that there was kind of a need for a common interoperable data schema to support collaboration within traceability platforms and other supply chain management solutions that are collecting data from the supply chain. And so Commonshare essentially does three things. We work with companies around building this collaborative software for collecting information from the supply chain, whether it's for EUDR or any other regulation. We work with this interoperable verification dashboard for certification bodies that then verifies that data. And then we help companies essentially vectorize their information to identify better suppliers or suppliers that are more sustainable or more impactful or have fewer impacts on the supply chain. So one of the ways that we do this is through partnering with companies where they are in their process. And so often companies will do supply chain mapping with us. If they've already got a supply chain mapping tool, they'll augment that tool with a platform for tracing their products through the supply chain. We use a mixed kind of methodology for supply chain mapping because depending on where you are in the supply chain and depending how much power you have in your purchasing relationships can determine how you want to actually go through the process of collecting this information. And so in some cases, retailers or brands or manufacturers will work with our tier ones to collect all of this other information. In other cases, you'll use a recursive traceability system that goes through each tier. But we essentially meet companies where they are to collect all of the information that's required for, EUDR or whatever particular regulation you're trying to comply with. To that end, if companies are already using a traceability platform, we actually integrate with a bunch of competitive traceability platforms, which I'll talk about in a second. And often companies that are consumer facing will then use us to share information with at point of sale through digital product passports, or collect information and share kind of information on where stuff is coming from in the supply chain. So you can think of it as kind of a platform, not just for traceability, but for broader supply chain data management. The challenge that we see in the end game for all of this is that we're moving towards a geopolitical environment where no one authority is going to be able to control all of this information. So everyone on the call today is focused on EUDR, but we're going to have more and more data silos that develop given this new reality that we find ourselves in between the US and China and Russia and others. And as a result of that, companies are going to have to think through, how do we share information and how do competitors share information? And so we're part of a new initiative called Parlay, that essentially is a data exchange API that you will invite as many of the 1,000+ traceability platforms that exist in the world to try to share common data. So if there's a producer or a supplier or a forest owner on the phone today and they choose one traceability platform, but a downstream manufacturer, retailer is asking for them to go into another one, they could just simply share that information with the other platform without having to onboard to the other system. And so effectively what we're doing is we're taking all of the learnings of what has been kind of a 4 or 5 year journey in building our own traceability platform and saying the only way this gets solved is through an interoperable system that's co-owned and co-governed across these different competitive industry initiatives. And so on the one hand, you've got competitive traceability platforms, but then on the other hand, there are X number of certification bodies that now need to figure this out, and they're not willing to log into each other's systems. So they also need a pre-competitive space to share data where there's very clear understanding of data sovereignty and data ownership. I think that's all of my time. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, or by email or at the end of this call. And again, we appreciate PEFC involving us in this.
Thank you very much, Martin. Yeah, and hopefully people saw that as food for thought. Martin's company has got some very good traction in, for example, the textile industry, working with big retailers, and his reach goes much more beyond simply EUDR. It's involving life cycle analysis and digital product passporting and some other interesting features. And I think there is a conversation which to be had and which we're having with Martin in terms of a more strategic view of big data going into the future. So thanks for that, Martin. Great. I'd now like to move on and introduce to you Swapan from Deeplai. Swapan and I have been cooperating now for a long time, feels like a long time in the EUDR space. Deeplai were one of the first partners to come on board with us. So Swapan, I'll let you explain your system. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Many thanks for the introduction. Please show the presentation. I can move on. Okay, so I'll go through this afternoon the Timber ID platform, which is a seamless EUDR implementation for all company sizes, from small forest owners, medium size, and to large companies. We are covering the entire supply chain, and the mapping of the supply chain actually is crucial to understand where you are in the supply chain and what obligations you need to cover under EUDR. So the key element here, what we're offering is a comprehensive and affordable solution covering the entire obligations which you have to provide, meeting the EUDR requirements. So we have a system where we're focusing on a acquisition the model, where we're having annual license fee. We start with 100 euros and we grow it accordingly as the size of the company is growing. And then we have a very transparent pay-as-you-use operational cost, where you can view the level of your file storage, processing, and transfers. And in this way, it's a very affordable way that we can cover everyone who is in the supply chain. It's very important to be said that the EUDR process is mainly a due diligence process. What you need to provide, the information gathering, and you need to be sure that the information you're gathering is verifiable, and you can really get the proof of the source of the timber. And that is the key element. Our Timber ID platform is focusing only on timber and the rubber. We're not doing other commodities. And it's very essential, as I was mentioning, that we're supporting in a decentralized mode the entire supply chain, all stakeholders. And we know that once you're at the end of the supply chain, it becomes for you very difficult to move down to the tier 1, tier 2 until the source of the timber. And the data privacy and security in the supply chain, with sharing the required documentation and enabling the audits is essential. And we are here are focusing really to support our clients on a predefined and fully adjustable risk assessment and mitigation templates. That's a key element to help you to provide the full automation of the process in providing all this data and be able to audit your supply chain and be auditable by someone who is on the top of the supply chain. Importantly to be said, the system is also enabling to have a predefined risk approach to the PEFC EUDR, TDS module. So if you're having a PEFC certification, it will enable you here to have a full automation of this process to gathering information and for future audits. Now, we're looking with all the other companies offering solutions on EUDR, and we recognize that the satellite imagery approach is the requirement. It's needed, it's built in our platform, just one click and you will receive a full report of the reference to 2020. But when you think about the due diligence obligations, you'll understand that you need to prove the source of the timber. So the information you're gathering needs to be verifiable. Our approach at the first level with the due diligence statement, which is fully automated, but is based on a digital delivery node or on a physical timber traceability at the first mile. So who is able to gather the information at the first mile and then know exactly that once we do a deforestation report of a forest plot, that's great, but we need to know that the timber is really coming from that forest plot. And that is the key element we need to achieve. What we're offering a full integration of our platform with the ERP system and with the EU traces system. So basically by working daily on your ERP system, all the jobs are run fully automatically on our platform, and we're supporting you in having really a smooth and safe implementation of the EUDR requirements. Feel free to reach out. You can scan my details here. I'll be happy to provide any live demo of the system and looking forward to be working with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Swapan. And just to note there, everybody, amongst some of the providers today, Swapan is focusing on timber and rubber. And in fact, PEFC as a system only deals in timber and related forest products, paper, packaging, etc., and rubber. So we do not deal in any of the other EUDR risk commodities such as coffee and cocoa, etc. So thanks for that, Swapan. I'm now delighted to introduce Vincent Pellet, who has a background as a French chain of custody auditor and timber consultant expert. And so I'm going to let Vincent explain to you his Ekwato system. Hello, Vincent, over to you.
You're on mute, Vincent.
On mute, Vincent, sorry.
Yes, you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Yes, hi everyone, sorry for this. So first I would like to thank PEFC International for offering me this opportunity to introduce Ekwato and its various solutions. Ekwato is a company that I founded at the end of 2018 based on my own observations on the field in the forestry and industrial wood sector, since Ekwato is above all based on the skills and experience of our team. As you have seen in my profile, I have extensive field experience in the forest and timber industry, and I'm still an auditor alongside my activity with Ekwato for FSC, PEFC, chain of custody, for legality as well, and EUDR for ECB. Today, this field experience still allows me to visit some companies every week to help them identify the difficulties or to give them solutions on subjects such as responsible and sustainable purchasing, product legality, traceability, and due diligence system. So the Ekwato solution is based on several modules, allowing us to provide the most suitable solution for each need. You've got the collect module. So with this module, you get a free, secure, individual access to each of your suppliers. You create as many documents as you like, and the module automatically handles document requests and reminders towards your suppliers. With the share module, you can give each of your clients a free, secure, individual access to the documents you have selected for them, and they will have the possibility to download them whenever they want. With the EUDR, your company in the EU may be required to make documents also available to your clients who are based as well in the EU. With the risk module, this one allows you to create your wood products, including their components with the supply chain, up to the allocation of one or more forest parcels, or also some due diligence statements. Then the risk level is calculated automatically per wood product with a customized decision tree. The tag module is a phone application. So by scanning the barcode or QR code, you will get information about your wood product, including your map with the location of forest parcel. And of course, we can develop API for you, and we can develop it to share information between the Ekwato software and your own IT system. So now let's have a look at a concrete example together. So with the collect and risk modules, the risk level per product is calculated daily. We can therefore know and follow the risk level over time using a graph for each product. Then if we take into account of all the company's products, then we have the company's overall risk level for its wood products over time. This is the graph that you can see on the screen now. Each time on this graph corresponds to a risk level, each line, yes, and its percentage of the overall quantity. So for a purchasing manager, his objective is to have the green curve at 100%, which means that all his products have a low risk level. And as you know, the low risk level means negligible risk for the EUDR. Let's also have a look now at a real example of geolocation. With the source module, we see here on screen the case of a product with 5 components. This could be, for instance, a furniture. Each component has its own supply chain, and the original supplier has used at least one forest parcel from one forest. A forest parcel can be harvested in different years from each other. We see it here with the same forest, of which 3 forest parcels have been harvested. It means 1 parcel harvested per year. For companies not directly involved in forestry, this source module can also use the reference of each due diligence statements given by the supplier. Ekwato is not only a software to save time thanks to the automation of administrative tasks and the great flexibility to mix different origins. Ekwato also offers services for businesses to support companies in implementing their wood product purchasing policy. So we can have purchasing policy diagnostic, audits, trainings, preparation for COC certification, and of course, advice for EUDR. So Ekwato keeps developing to come up with innovative solutions and will soon communicate on new services for businesses. So stay tuned and thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Vincent. We're now going to move to the first of our German-based tech companies, and I'm very pleased to invite Chris Bell to take the floor for LiveEO. LiveEO were, if I recall correctly, the first partner we engaged with, and so I'm very happy to hand over to Chris. Chris, this is all yours.
All right. Thank you very much, Rob. Thanks to PEFC for having us today. I'm not sure if I'm controlling just yet. Okay, perfect. There we go. As Rob said, we're based in Berlin, LiveEO. We're about 130 people now. We are coming from the space, so to speak, in that we have been working since 2018 on monitoring infrastructure and assets using satellite data and building machine learning capabilities on top of that. I'm the product lead for our product TradeAware, which is for the EUDR regulation. My background is coming from the regulatory space. I've been working for about 15 years across different regulations, sort of what I call the alphabet soup, GDPR, a lot of banking regulations like LIBOR and initial margin, but very interested to be in EUDR now. I think as Rob said as well, I think as we saw this morning in our earlier session, we all use the term end-to-end quite a lot. So happy to, I think Patrick used this expression as well, happy to lean into talking about end-to-end. Here's a few of our current clients as well, and also some of our partners on here. So what is TradeAware? Well, first off, you can learn more by going to any of these QR codes. So one of them will take you to our prices and commercials that have been specifically built for PEFC chain of custody organizations. And you can also see our webinars with the other link. Of course, we also have access that you can make free access of our application on a basic tier by going to our website. So if you're interested in getting started, then that's an option as well. So what are we doing? As I said, end-to-end is a common theme among a few of us as providers. What we mean by that is trying to solve for that whole value chain that EUDR is impacting. So we see that across 6 different aspects in these sort of 3 themes. So first off, you need to gather data. You of course need that geolocation data, and that's a complexity in itself. And to solve that, we built a commercial network, sort of like a social network, to be able to gather that from your suppliers, and they can gather it from their sub-suppliers. Of course, has been pointed out already, deforestation is one aspect. Legality is also another quite complicated aspect, and that's where things like supplier questionnaires come in to gather information and documentation. And then assessing risk, deforestation assessment is obviously a big part of why we're here. For us, this is built around our precision analytics. We, as an Earth observation company, first and foremost, have built our own precision analytics that really closely aligns with the definitions in the regulation to reduce the risk of having a false positive or a false negative. And then you have to, of course, decide what is made of this collective data. And this is where the risk assessment module that we have comes in. And also there's a law firm that we work with, quite a large law firm that was on our first slide, that helps us to power this, making sure that the right questions are being asked, but also enabling you to power that review. And then finally, as was asked about how this integrates with the EU system traces, we have a system that we call transaction management, which allows you to tie all of this due diligence information together with the information you need to produce a due diligence statement, and then send that to the EU tracer system. And of course, you can use this either via the user interface or via our API, which is, of course, the more common use case for larger organizations. And then just to show an example of what that looks like when I talk about our precision analytics, this is our ability to much more accurately monitor land use change over time than some of the open source data sets that are out there. And so we went back to first principles in terms of creating our own data sets for training and producing our sort of spatial temporal algorithm, which looks at changes over time and looks at the texture. I think as we saw in the first presentation, texture is obviously a huge part because forests have a very, plantations have a very distinctive look about them. And that's what we're training our system to do, is to look at that, to reduce misclassification. And of course, also working with PEFC on incorporating their due diligence standard as well. So that's us. Happy to, if anyone wants to reach out, have a conversation about what we're building. And thank you very much again, PEFC and everybody who joined.
Thank you so much, Chris. And yes, as you saw there, Chris has been doing quite a lot of work liaising with me, building a question set which mimics the way the EUDR due diligence system works. So thank you for that. We're now going to move to Orbify, which is the second of our Polish-based companies. And I'm very pleased to introduce Jakub, who is going to explain the Orbify system to you. Jakub, it's all yours. Are you there, Jakub?
You need to go to the top of your screen to unmute yourself once you started sharing.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Wow. Right, sometimes technology is too difficult for me. Hello, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. My name is Jakub Dziwisz, and I'm co-founder, CEO of Orbify. Well, today I'm really happy to share with you a little bit more information about our platform. But first of all, thank you for joining the webinar, and Rob and whole PEFC team, thank you very much for having us on this call. So far you've heard a lot from our colleagues, partners, and other companies about how you can analyze EUDR compliance. I think I'm still struggling with controlling my slides. So if you could jump to the next slide, I would very much appreciate. Thank you very much. So, well, I don't want to spend a lot of time explaining all the details, how we build our machine learning models, how we are leveraging science papers, peer-reviewed publications, etc., to ensure high quality of our results. I don't want to spend too much time covering details of our API, how you can integrate Orbify with your systems. I think that this is all important, but given how many presentations, how many pitches you are listening to, I would like you to just remember 3 things about Orbify. So first of all, that's when you are using our web platform, then you can generate reports about EUDR compliance faster than you can brew an espresso. Then the other super important thing, the other thing that our customers find it super important is that if you need additional information, if you want to better understand why certain area is compliant with EUDR, or maybe why there are certain red flags, then Orbify platform is infinitely customizable, just like Canva design. You can add as much information, as many details as you require. And then the third thing is that our platform is super reliable, not only in terms of quality of the data, but also in terms of uptime. And well, we most likely beat your bank. So those 3 facts, please take it with you. If we can jump to the next slide, then another thing that is super important for our clients is that Orbify frees you from interacting with your suppliers, going back and forth, asking them for some information and then uploading it to Orbify. You just share our magic link with your suppliers, and then the magic thing happens. Your suppliers can onboard themselves into the system, and well, this makes lives of our customers so much easier. The next thing on our next slide is so if we can, yes. Thank you. The next thing is related to the fact that it's not only about one-time analysis, but we have your back all the time after you onboard your suppliers, after you onboard your plots on Orbify. We keep analyzing them, and we provide you with new real-time deforestation alerts. So if situation changes, if you need, if you need to be notified about some risks that materialized, Orbify will do it for you. So let's jump to the next slide, where you can see a couple of our customers. I think that now, after me presenting why Orbify has certain unique features, you are not surprised to see that multiple brands who are very serious about their impact, like WWF, like Lush Cosmetics, and a couple of others, are working with Orbify to make sure that their impact is properly measured. You may be surprised to see that we are powering some traceability experts, but if you decide to work with one of them, well, your EUDR analytics would be handled by Orbify. So why not to work directly with us? And of course, I'm super proud of working with PEFC as one of their tech partners. So once again, thank you. So let's jump to the next slide, last slide of this presentation. If what I'm saying sounds interesting to you, if this resonates with the needs of your company, if you think that one of the elements of Orbify offering can be important for your business to ensure that you stay compliant with EUDR, let's talk. Here is a QR code. Let's scan, please scan it, and let's hop on a quick call. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jakub. Yeah, and just to point out there, as Jakub was saying, quite a few of our providers online today will be offering modular solutions to companies and can also integrate with companies' ERP solutions, and are buying satellite data from a range of sources and also from the free-to-air Copernicus and Sentinel systems as well. So thank you, Jakub. And we can pick up some of these themes in the question and answer session as well. So now moving on back to Germany and back to Mannheim, I'm delighted to introduce Patrick from osapians, another one of our very early partnerships. And Patrick, I will let you explain your system.
Thanks a lot, Rob. Appreciate the introduction. I'm very delighted to meet you all. My name's Patrick. I'm responsible for building out our EUDR product. And today I want to talk about our solution and how it can help companies in the wood industry comply with the EUDR regulation. Maybe just two quick words about osapians on the next slide. You'll see that we're basically about three things. We want to get you compliant, automate as much as possible, and make sure that it fits your process. We're doing that for a lot of different regulations, such as EUDR, but also CS-DDD and many others. So it's an ESG platform, if you will. And we're also in the very active in the traceability sector for many food and non-food sectors. Been doing this for now around 7 years. Are more than 500 people at this point, and mostly based out of Mannheim in Germany, as Rob pointed out. When it comes to EUDR, on the next slide, you will see that for us, we were quite early in the space, so we've been working on EUDR for around 2 years by now. So we've worked with a lot of companies over the time in all affected industries, right? We're quite strong in retail, but also in industry, manufacturing, furniture, and so on. We have quite a lot of experience from a lot of successful EUDR onboarding. That's why what we built over time is really a solution that is plug and play. You can get started really easily, but also that adapts to your needs to really automate as much as possible. Obviously, with all the bells and whistles like ERP integrations, traces integrations, and so on. One of the most important things here is that we obviously are not legal experts. We don't build this ourselves. We built this together with our legal partners who make sure that we conform to the regulation and to the latest updates, such as 2 days ago with the new FAQ and guidance. If we move on to the next slide, you'll actually see one of the key things for us is to have you covered in all of the different scenarios, right? Whether you are an upstream operator, that would be the first producer, importer, or downstream operator. So if you're using products that are already covered by a due diligence statement from your supplier, we provide you all the tools you need to comply. whether that's collecting geodata or due diligence statements, doing an automated risk analysis, we'll come to that in a second, based on satellite imagery, but also pulling data out of the EU information system, right? So for us, it's always important to support you in this complete process. And then on the next slide, you'll see that for us, this essentially means that you need 4 capabilities. And we have the right modules to help you gather all the EUDR data that you need, whether that is a supplier portal, a mobile app, or an integration module. We carry out a risk analysis automatically, not only for deforestation, but for all the topics, for all the categories covered by EUDR, especially in the legality supply chain space. We can help you automate submitting due diligence statements to EU tracers. This is especially important if you're a producer. So if you're taking different inputs, mixing them, and then you have to report on your final product to the EU. This is one of the highest manual effort tasks there is, and it's absolutely vital to automate this, and then automatically also be able to interface with the EU systems, interface with your customers, and interface with your internal systems. So that is always key. And maybe just a really quick look under the hood of how we go about analyzing risks for you. On the next slide, you'll see that this is, so the guiding principle here is always to be as automated as possible. I think on the deforestation, forest degradation side, it's quite clear how that works. We work with satellite analysis, very similar to some of the things you already heard. So a lot of different data sources from different satellite constellations that we use to determine if there was any deforestation or forest degradation going on. At the same time, we also help you understand and mitigate all the legality risks with index data, certificates, where PEFC really plays a vital role in the wood industry. So that is quite key, but also other due diligence tools. And with that, I think I'm already at the end of my 5 minutes. Rob, I just saw you appear. So I think that's a good signal. If you want to learn more about us, you'll see it on the next slide. There's our contact information. We have a program for enterprise customers, also for smaller and medium-sized businesses, with special rates for PEFC members. So please go check that out if you're interested. And yeah, we'd be delighted to continue talking to you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Yeah, and I happen to know, having been engaged with Osapians last year, that they do much more than EUDR, and I think especially for larger companies, the ESG journey is something well worth researching if you're interested. So thanks very much, Patrick. Yeah. Great. Moving a little closer to home now in terms of PEFC International and based in Geneva office. I'm often there myself. I'm happy, therefore, to welcome Eunice from Product DNA, and he's going to explain his system and services to you. Thanks, Eunice.
Thank you, Rob and PEFC, for this opportunity. Let's see if I can control my slide. Oh, perfect. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Yunus. I'm project manager at Product DNA. We are a company that provides SaaS and consulting services in traceability and transparency. So we've been doing this for 20 years. We are based in Lausanne, but we have offices in France, Europe, and North America. We work with companies of all sizes, so from small businesses to multinational, as well as federation and public institution. And this diversity is very valuable to us because it gives us a deeper understanding of internal traceability, which is really key for EUDR. We work across multiple sectors, so from textile, which is historical for us, to cosmetics with brands like Guerlain, and wine and spirits with Hennessy. But our biggest and fastest growing sector is construction with Eiffage. And so we have this diversity of topics because this allows us to better understand the challenges of different industries. Now, in terms of success story in the wood sector, one strong example that we have is our work with Eiffage, As you can see on the left, the Village des Athlètes that was built for Paris 2024 Olympic Games, we implemented traceability for wood, concrete, and steel. So for wood, the goal was to ensure that 80% came from French forest and that 90% was certified like PEFC, for example. On your right, you can see a DPP-like solution that you can scan to learn more about the project. And that was basically tailored to our client needs, which provides a clear view of the entire wood transformation chain from forest to construction site. As you may already know, the EUDR presents big challenges, especially around data that wasn't required before. And so that's why last year we launched a working group with La Wood Tech, bringing together key players like PEFC to discuss EUDR practical solutions and challenges. It was very successful, and it helped to shape our understanding of the needs of the industry. On the right, it also opened the door to new projects, like for instance with Eiffage Wood Division or a sawmill, to support them in their EUDR alignment. And now, how do our solutions support EUDR in practice? Well, it all starts with supply chain discovery. Knowing your direct supplier is enough to get started is the first step that you can have. And that's why we offer both SaaS and consulting services to help you identify, map, and engage your suppliers directly on your platform. The second step is data management. So once your suppliers are connected, our solution helps you to collect, organize, and structure all the EUDR data at the batch level. And the first step is traceability consulting and audit, because technology alone cannot solve every challenge, because traceability is rarely linear and gaps are common. And that's why we have experts that can work directly with your suppliers to tackle the issues and to help you reach the right level of detail. And the final step is data transmission. So we provide you with the tools to extract and transmit your due diligence statements to the EUDR information system and to keep all the necessary records for potential checks by the authorities. And you need to understand that it doesn't stop at EUDR, because this traceability data can become a strategic asset that you can leverage for transparency, risk management, compliance with future regulation, and succeed in competitive tenders. So yeah, I think that was it. This was a quick look at what we can do for EUDR and traceability. Feel free to take a picture or scan the QR code to get in touch with Product DNA. And yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Eunice. Yes, and just to pick up on a couple of important things that you said there, I think it's important for everyone to remember that EUDR is just an extension of EUTR, and those people actually working at the coalface and on the ground in the timber and wood-based industries have been doing due diligence for years. The big game changer, of course, is the requirement for geolocation, polygons, and data. And this is producing huge amounts of data in a very complex global trading pattern. So the reason we're displaying our technology partners today is because, as you can see, they're offering you software solutions which help you to manage your real supply chains and have frictionless trade. So I think the EU has created a massive data challenge here for the whole world, and it's going to be interesting to see how this rolls out into the future. And we can pick this up in the Q&A. So thank you, Eunice. So last but very much not least, I'm very pleased to welcome Olivier. So we're back to France now. And Olivier is the founder or co-founder of Supply Logica, and he's going to take you through his system. So over to you, Olivier. Thank you. You might need to unmute, Olivier. I think it'll be at the top of your screen now.
Okay, sorry everyone, I was struggling to get the sound on. I'm trying to take control also to the presentation. Okay, I think I have it right now. Okay, so thank you, Rob, and thank you to the PEFC team for this meeting. Thank you everyone also for staying with us until the end of this session. I'm Olivier, so from Supply Logica, and as the last speaker of the 2 days webinar, I will just ask you for 5 more minutes of your attention, and I will do my best to make it worth it. So we'll introduce Supply Logica as a solution designed by experts. We have more than 10 years of experience in due diligence, from EUDR to EUDR. We are based in France, but we support users internationally, and we bring not only a tool, but a real-world expertise in the forestry, timber, and paper sectors. Our team also includes qualified PEFC auditors. But let me walk through how Supply Logica helps companies manage EUDR compliance across 3 key pillars: geolocation, data sharing, and risk management. So concerning geolocation, the first step of any due diligence system is knowing where the wood comes from. So with Supply Logica, you can either upload a geospatial file, which is automatically checked for conformity, or draw your own polygons directly in the platform using satellite-based map for precision. Concerning data sharing, let me show you how we manage the data transfer between the users and how we connect also with traces. Our platforms handles information flows, both upstream and downstream. So you can use it to share traceability information of a product, or to evaluate a risk before a commercial relationship with your suppliers. So I will show you the full possibility that Supply Logica offers in that case. So for the example, how you can request origin data information from a supplier by simply registering your product into Supply Logica and submitting a request to your supplier. Then your supplier will receive a free access link then he can use to reply directly in the app to your request of information, either by linking a product he may already have registered or create a new one to answer your question. Once your supplier will have answered, you will be notified. And depending on the confidentiality settings he will agree to share with you, you will be able to see the supply chain structure and the product origins, where it comes from. Also, in Supply Logica, if you are a manufacturer or a trader, you can also create your own product in the system. You can link your products with multiple supplies according to the reality of your traceability system and decide exactly what kind of information you want to share with your customers, whether it is the origin or the supplier structure, or it means the name of your suppliers, or both. You can also generate links for your customers with all the information you want to share with them, with a private link, or even also a public link if you want to share more information. Supply Logica is also connected with traces. You can use it to import the information of the suppliers if your supplier is providing you a DDS reference and a verification number. You can upload all the available information into traces directly into Supply Logica and use this information as an input for your own production. But you can also create and submit your own due diligence statements. In a few clicks, you will choose the product for which one you want to make your statement. You will confirm the information you are sharing with the European Commission system. And in few seconds after you submit your statement, you will receive confirmation that it is accepted, and you will have the reference number and the verification number that you can also share with your customers. But Supply Logica is also a powerful tool for risk management. We first provide a country risk layer based on our own benchmark while we are waiting for the official EU benchmark version. We, of course, recognize PEFC certification and the PEFC EUDR's DDS system as indicators of low risk, but you are also able to manage your own risk according to your own procedures. But in case you need assistance and you can require our expertise to help you make additional verification, which means the supply chain verifications or even origin verification, which can include third-party audits, but also satellite image analysis, which is a specific topic today. So, and in this topic, we have a tool that compares imagery taken before and after the harvesting date, which can detect the tree cover loss and generate a geospatial deforestation and reforestation report. And this report comes with an expert interpretation, because deforestation must always be assessed in the context of the forest management system and the silvicultural practices applied on site. So in short, Supply Logica, it is a PEFC aligned system, a field-tested platform combining robust technology with deep industry expertise. I encourage you to explore it at app.supplylogica.com or simply scan the QR code you have on your screen. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Olivier. And that concludes all of our presentations from our technology partners. Fabienne, I presume we will now go to Q&A.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll moderate the Q&A, and we have, in fact, I'm going to move to Chris immediately, actually, because we have a question in the chat and Chris is going to answer it live. And the question is, are any of the products available as an integrated ArcPro Esri extension for automated data export or any other GIS system integrations? So, Chris, please jump in and answer that one.
Well, are any of the products, I won't answer on behalf of everybody else because frankly, I don't know. But we have an API where you're able to extract data to any other system that you want to use. So yes, and including being able to use that with Esri or other GIS systems. So yeah, happy to discuss that further as well. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Chris. And I'm sure several of our other providers as well, if you pop your cameras on and you can raise your hand, then you can indicate that you also have this functionality. So thanks so much. There you go, Patrick, Jakob, yeah, quite a few nodding heads, Olivier. Yeah, there we go. So Eunice as well, thank you. So just coming back to Olivier then. Olivier, what sort of strength of emphasis do you put on the human element of having a staff behind the system to be able to talk to and do non-computing activities, for example?
Thank you, Rob, for a question. Yes, because we think that due diligence is not just about collecting data. It's about also understanding the risk across the supply chain and interpreting each situation in the context of the local forest practices and the regulatory framework at the origin. We've built our platform with a real field experience, with more than 10 years of experience. And this system is clearly first adapted to all levels of traceability. And in some high-risk countries, the technology alone is not enough to be able to mitigate the risk. You need to be able to analyze the structure of the supply chain, to evaluate the quality and the credibility of the supporting evidences that your suppliers can provide to you, and implement a realistic and context-specific risk mitigation measures. And I think it is making a strong difference, because we understand the local forest practices, and also it is also real for the satellite image analysis. Because it is just not detecting the tree cover loss, it is also interpreting the reality on field. And it requires qualitative risk assessment. For the example, in some countries, a clear cutting may be part of an approved sustainable forest management plan and not a sign of deforestation. So it has to be including and to be nuances into our analysis. And I think it is really important in this matter.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that. Eunice, just coming to you. I mean, you showed a digital passport example there from the Olympic Games. We had a question in the chat about digital passporting. Do you think this is a useful development for the future? And can you see this making more data available on product, for example?
Yeah, of course. We know that right now the DPP delegated acts have not yet been published, which are supposed to have all the full set of requirements for the DPP, but that doesn't prevent us for preparing for it. And at Product DNA, we capitalize on EUDR and any kind of projects that we have with our clients to, for example, also answer to specific tenders to implement traceability. So we can really take EUDR as an opportunity to prepare for DPP, but also for other regulations like CSRD as well. So yeah, it's a really good use case in my opinion.
Great, thanks for that. I think we might have lost Patrick from Osapians. I'm not seeing you on screen, Patrick. Oh no, there you are. There you are. You're good. You're back. Maybe your camera was off. And so a question for you, Patrick, Osapians, Patrick. We've had a couple of questions come into the chat about the costs for small companies, and maybe you could just speak a little bit about people at the beginning of supply chains who are quite small, and how they might either buy your product or become a member of a fee-paying larger customer, if you would.
Yeah, totally. Thanks for the question, Rob. So what we do have is we
maybe need to drop your microphone a little or bring it closer. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Does it work now?
It's good.
Fantastic. Thanks, Rob. It is a good question. So what we offer is for producers that only want to use our platform to provide data to their customers. We have a supply portal that's free of charge for anyone to use, and companies can use that to register their data and share it with their different customers using osapians. So that is quite interesting. For companies that want a full EUDR solution that helps them also gather their data, submit due diligence statements to traces, and so on, we offer different packages. So from our enterprise solutions, but also now we offer SME packages that are obviously more cost effective. It always depends for our customers on 2-3 factors. So for very specific pricing, I would ask you to kindly just follow up with us so we can provide a tailored pricing.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for that. Jakob, just coming back to you. You mentioned, the ability to download data and create reports and things. Is that something which you're seeing a lot of your customers picking up on? I mean, how are your customers actually interacting with your software system?
Well, I think that interoperability is super important for all the systems that are meant to be used by enterprise customers, right? So I would say that half of our customers is using Orbify via our web interface, but the other half is leveraging our API that enables them to integrate from the level of their ERP software or ArcGIS and other types of geospatial solutions. And then all of the results generated on Orbify can be downloaded to be stored, presented later on, or maybe processed further again with ArcGIS, QGIS, and other types of software suites for geospatial software.
Thanks, Jakob, for that. Vincent, I'm going to use your experience as a chain of custody expert and auditor. How are you seeing the market right now? Are you seeing companies getting themselves prepared, or do you think people are still hanging back and waiting?
Yes, thank you, Rob, for this question. For 2 or 3 years, I see that more and more companies are going to want to be FSC or PEFC certified in the chain of custody because they want to be ready and to reduce the all requirements to do it alone. So they prefer to have external third party in order to have an individual point of view. And yes, since last year, I've got many more clients to prepare for COC chain of custody. But for the EUDR, it seems that requirements are very difficult to understand for small companies and industries as well. So they are waiting the last moment to be ready. But I think it will be really too dangerous for them. So it's really good to make some webinars like you do, because it is not really evident to cope with these requirements, and it's surely not within 1 month or 2 months or just in November that each company will be ready. So really, it will be really better for companies to get time and many months before in order to be ready, because it's not like a software to apply and to use. There is so many things to do with suppliers and with the end products as well. So companies are really to be aware about this. And of course, as you know, also with the new PEFC standards that you prepared for DDS. So of course, as an auditor, I will be trained by this, and I will start to audit some companies on this in a few weeks or a few months. So of course, companies, forest companies or COC certified companies will have to improve and to acquire new requirements in order to be at the right level. So it will take some time, and more time that enterprise think that it will be. So really, I insist really that companies have to prepare really many months before. Thank you, Rob, for this.
Thank you, Vincent. Wise words. I think the message there is start now.
Yes.
Do your research and get prepared. And also PEFC, we will be running further webinars and issuing more guidance, especially on the practical point of certified organizations and how to adopt and use our modular standards. So that's more news on that into the future. So thank you for that. Just a couple more questions then with our last two speakers. Swapan, you mentioned that rubber is one of the markets that you're targeting. Could you just briefly say a few words about the uptake and the interest in the rubber industry?
Yes, many thanks for that. We got just one project on rubber at the moment. Most of our projects are basically with timber and with the producers. With rubber, really, you have here a challenge at the first mile, how to gather the right information. Yeah, because in our system we're providing a digital delivery node functionality, which is enabling you to create a specification supported by a photo documentation, which you are gathering at the source and then doing the verification at the point of reception. Yeah, so here we're having our own ways how we can link it for particularly this project which we are having the forest. Yeah, because when we're thinking about how we really need to get the right information, we need to understand that EUDR is basically about the due diligence process, yeah, and the verifiable information which we can gather and check, and about the audits which you need to provide. Most of the clients do not really get it. It's not about submission of a DDS. Yeah, submission of DDS is technicality. Yeah, integrate with API and just gather the data input and create the submission of a DDS. The bulk really of the issue is where I am in my supply chain, and especially in the rubber part, as Rob mentioned, especially, is very, very critical. How do we put all the bits and pieces together, and how we shall assure the stakeholders at the end of the supply chain, which are, for example, the tire producers, that they're sourcing, the product from really a compliant area. It is a challenge, but yeah, it's possible really.
Thanks, Marvin. Yeah, that's interesting. Maybe if I have some informal advice for everyone, you might want to go and buy some tires for your car this year, because there's huge tire production in China and Southeast Asia. And I know that there are discussions going on about whether the price of rubber is going to increase and whether, in fact, rubber will even be available to the tire companies. So, yeah, go and get some tires, everybody. Last question then to Patrick from Airbus. Patrick, I know that you own your own suite of satellites, obviously Airbus being a very big space and defense company. Could you just briefly talk about the levels of resolution which are available depending on risk? That would be quite useful to end on, I think. Thank you.
Thanks for the questions. Yeah, so Airbus, we own our own constellations of satellites. Today, we operate a fleet of radar and optical satellites, mainly in the high and very high resolution domain. On the optical domain, we operate satellites with resolution going from 1.5 meter to 30 centimeter resolution. So you can see every day we can get closer from the ground. And this type of data is very helpful, let's say, for the purpose of developing Starlink solution at two levels. One, it's to prepare training data to train the algorithms, machine learning algorithms we apply on coarser resolution data, but that brings global coverage and more frequent acquisition. Here I'm talking about free data, Copernicus data. I guess all the platforms are using, but it's very key to get closer from the ground, to train the algorithms, to really pick up the land features that are of importance for assessing the risk of non-compliance in case of conversion, in case of operations, and so on. And of course, those data are also very important to make a double check or to evidence when there is a sensitive case, a non-compliance that comes in your supply chains. Before to go on the ground or to engage the suppliers to understand why this non-compliance issue is arising, to have a closer look of what is happening on the ground, to have more evidence on what has driven, for example, the deforestation of the conversions, is also very useful for the company. So here, there is no one data that fits for all the needs, all what we want to do in the EUDR domain. But we are leveraging all what is available, and high and very high resolution data play a very strong role to bring confidence and to evidence sensitive cases.
Thanks, Patrick. That's a great way to end on, actually. And I think what we've heard throughout this session is that there's no substitute for boots on the ground, but that Earth observation technology, especially when you're talking about 30 centimeter resolution, can be a very powerful tool, especially in complex tropical forests. So thank you, everybody, for your presentations. I think that was a good mix of presentations and content, and I'm now going to hand back to Fabien to close out. So thank you. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to moderate the Q&A, and what I will do is I've been scanning the questions which have been submitted. Please feel free to type more questions into the Q&A. But starting off, just to ask a few questions of our panelists, and if you can all put your cameras on, please, that would be excellent. Starting off with Patrick from Airbus. Patrick, you obviously I think have your own satellites. So maybe you could tell us very briefly about that, and also about how many times these satellites are refreshing data.
Thanks for the question, Rob. So yes, Airbus, it's our legacy business is to operate, let's say, a fleet of satellites, mainly on the high and very high resolution, let's say, domain. Today, we operate satellites from 1.5 meter resolutions up to 30 centimeter resolutions. Regarding Starlink, today we are using a wider range of satellite data. Of course, to be able to work at scale, we also use free data, Copernicus data, Sentinel-2, Sentinel-1 data. But we see the value of high and very high resolution satellite imagery at two levels. First, to train the algorithms and to prepare the training data for machine learning when it comes to perform uncover classification over very, very large areas with some ecosystems that are quite complex in terms of landscape features and mix of different things. So having the capability, in addition to field data, to mobilize our satellites to really pick up the long features that are important for the company is absolutely key to have a robust and reliable long cover information. And high and very high resolution data is also very instrumental when it comes there is a non-compliance issue which in some cases can raise a big concern or it can be very sensitive for a company. We see with the company we are working with, most of the companies, they want to make a double check, they want to verify on the ground what is the situation, what has driven this conversion or this differentiation. And here we have the capability to bring additional, evidence, because with this type of resolutions, we get very close to, to the ground. And there was a question about how we can evidence or how we can contextualize the conversion after, for example, the clear cutting, whatever was the initial status of the forest, as it can take quite long for the vegetation to regrow and to really appreciate what is the new root cover after some harvesting operations. Here with this 30-50 resolution, centimeter resolution data, we have the capacity to very, let's say, right after the harvesting operation, to have an indication of whether the soil is being prepared for another plantation, or if we see, say, evidence of vegetation, natural regrowth, even at the very, very early stage. So it's quite important to anticipate what the future conversion could be. Hope it answers the question.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. Yeah, your audio was a bit muffled in the middle, but it improved towards the end. So just to recap for everybody, the resolutions can vary from meters down to centimeters, but obviously, and speaking on behalf of some of the other providers, the more resolution you want, then the more expensive that will be. Swapan, just turning to you, there's been a few questions in the chat about cost. I mean, I know you operate a sort of pay by data a model rather than an annual licensing fee. So without trying to put you too much on the spot, for a small to medium-sized company, what would the annual fees be? And I know this is a difficult question, but on average. So.
Okay, many thanks. So first of all, we have an annual license access fee, and that depends on the size of the client, and is proportionally extended based on the size of the client. So we begin with 100 euros annually, and we grow it. We can tell you that for today, our average license cost, because we're mostly serving producers, is at the level of 3,700 euro annually. Then we got the pay-as-you-use cost, which is related to your cost, and you can transparently see it on your account. So if you're having just 20 invoices per month, you'll pay little. If you're having 3,000 invoices per month, and we process everything automatically by creating the DDS, submitting and integrating with the ERP systems, obviously your cost will be higher. You see it on your account, fully it's transferable, and whenever you are reaching 70% of usage, you'll get automatically email and you'll need to add your credits.
Thank you, Swapan. That's excellent. Vincent, just turning to you. You mentioned in your presentation you have an app which works on the phone. Could you maybe just talk to us a little about how geolocation data is created in your system? And I know this will be similar to others. We've had questions in the chat about how would a user create a geolocation polygon, for example?
Yes, thank you for this question. This geolocation is based on there is two possibilities. And what supplier can create his own polygons directly on the Ekwato, or there is another solution in order to upload direct shape files from geographic software directly. And in this way, it is more secure, and the forest parcel directly appear on the screen, and it's really it's done, and it's okay. It's sufficient for this, and of course for each forest parcel is the same way. So it's really better to use shape files that to go on field with your GPS. To me.
Yeah, no, thanks, Vincent. Yeah. Chris, just moving to you. There was a question in the chat about the use of artificial intelligence in the systems. Would you like to maybe comment on that from a LiveEO perspective?
Yeah, sure. I may be in a bit of an interesting position as somebody who's coming from a deep regulatory background and now working in a company that's heavily into the AI side. We see AI as a very practical tool to help assess things at scale, but of course, I would caution against an over-reliance. Every AI system inevitably will have its faults. Anybody who's played around with ChatGPT will be aware of the propensity towards the occasional hallucination. And so that's why we use the AI to really get data at scale, but then we also have quite a extensive amount of people that can be involved in the process as well. So we have a quality control team that can also check our results to ensure that they are correct, and we also partner with a large law firm to check the output of document assessment as well. So I would say we definitely use AI to produce information at scale, but then also with a consciousness of making sure that it's correctly checked as well.
Thanks, Chris. Jakob, I see you want to come in. Please do reply. You're on mute, by the way. So.
Okay, so maybe now you can hear me. Thanks, Rob. So yeah, first of all, I fully support what Chris says, right? AI is a super handy tool, but I would like to share with you my perspective that is coming a little bit from legal tech background, because before Orbify, we and my co-founders worked in a company that based 95% of their legal decisions, like whether to sue Lufthansa, Ryanair, those big airlines, on what the AI says. And the key here is to, well, again, going to what Chris said, to accept that AI makes mistakes sometimes, just like humans make mistakes. It's only about getting above certain threshold where you say, okay, our AI, like in case of Orbify, our AI is more accurate than human assessment, so this is good to go. And I think that this is the approach that our colleagues are also sharing, that you are testing your results, and then you say, okay, this is more accurate than what we can get out of human analysis. So this is good for our customers.
Okay, thanks, Jakob. Yeah, and sticking with you, by the way, briefly, there was a question in the chat about how the systems can look into the future, because obviously when a forest is logged and clear-felled, it then takes, depending on where you are in the world, 3 or 4 or even 15 years for that forest to appear as green again on the on the satellites. What mechanisms do you have to try and predict the future, as it were?
Well, so first of all, for us, it's super important to have timely, near real-time alerts when something bad is starting to happen to the forest, right? But this is one thing. But then about predicting the future, it's about risk analysis, about monitoring, I don't know, agriculture sprawl, urban sprawl, maybe some natural hazards in the area. And then based on this, you can try to predict, okay, we are seeing that this plantation so far is intact, or the area around this plantation is so far intact, but then there is some agriculture sprawl coming from the north. So we need to be aware of this, or we are monitoring vegetation health, right, to recognize regeneration of the forest in the vicinity. So there is a lot of different signals. If you are okay with me using this AI terminology, right? There are a lot of signals that we are taking into account when predicting land cover changes.
Thanks, Jakob. Yeah, and I think I know from my interactions with other people that looking at the vicinity of the forest and looking at the forest management going back over a decade or so, then it is possible for the machine learning to look at this and see whether there is a risk of deforestation or degradation, or whether this forest is being managed properly. So thanks for that. So Patrick from Osapians, what's your view on the, and it's a very hard word for me in the morning, interoperability in terms of your system? And then also a follow-up question. People have been asking a lot about, do the systems create a due diligence statement to be uploaded to Traces? And just to explain to everybody, Traces is the name for the EU Information Centre. So a couple of questions there, Patrick, sorry.
Yeah, no, thanks, Rob. I think those are the questions that are top of mind, right? So makes sense to ask them. So I think in terms of interoperability, the key question is, what data are you exchanging, right? If you're a downstream operator and you're working with due diligence statements, then I think that makes interoperability a lot easier, because those are two numbers or more. But in principle, it's always this due diligence statement number that you just mentioned that you get from EU traces, the verification code, and you can attach that to a lot of documents that you already exchange with your customers, with your suppliers. So that's always nice and easy. If we talk about geodata, then things get a bit more messy. And what we typically see with our customers is that they need different ways to work with their suppliers. So do we have the supplier portal that I mentioned earlier, but there might be suppliers that are really fit with EUDR. So they need an API, right? So one of the things that we're working with is just an API for suppliers, so they can also automate. But yeah, I think the key thing here is data standards, and I think GS1 is doing a tremendous work there. I know that you're doing a lot of work, Rob, on the certification side to harmonize risk assessments, and so I think those are the key points. Now, when we talk about the second part of your question, which was related to traces, what you said is I think one nuance of it. So yeah, you could prepare data and upload it to EU traces. What most of our customers prefer is just directly interfacing with that. So it's having an API. An API is essentially just an electronic interface between your system and the EU system, and then you can get the EU reference numbers, verification tokens directly back in your compliance system and then in your ERP system. So then you can just use them, share them with your customers. So I think that's key, to have a capability to automate that as much as possible, because ongoing compliance will mean you report all of the time. So you don't want to be just uploading documents to EU traces all of the time and then retrieving data back from there.
Great, thanks, Patrick. Eunice, just turning to you. I mean, in terms of your network contacts and obviously you're quite strong in the construction industry, could you maybe just comment on what your thoughts are on the level of preparation for EUDR that you're seeing with your customers? I mean, we're now in the middle of April, and so this is going to be a reality by the end of this year. So what's your thoughts briefly?
Yeah, I think that for now, a lot of customers of ours in the construction sectors start to know more about their suppliers. They're starting to have a clear mapping of their suppliers. So now it's just a matter of asking the right questions, and also putting yourself in the shoes of the suppliers and check with them how you can provide solutions for them to implement the right solution to basically transfer this data. So yeah, so some of them have more resources than others, of course. So it means that they're a bit more prepared than some companies. But what I want to highlight is that for SMEs, if you already know your direct suppliers, it's really good, and you can really work with that to go up the chain and to get the data that you need to comply with EUDR. So we can find a solution for every type of company.
Thanks, Eunice. Olivier, briefly, what sectors are you targeting, and what geographical spread do you have with Supply Logica? You're on mute. Oh, there you go.
Yes, I was looking for the microphone. So yeah, we have a strong expertise internationally in the timber industry in Africa, but we have been extending recently in the paper industry, and we are present in a lot in the whole world actually already with our first customers in Europe, but they bring us to work internationally very quickly. So we have customers in the whole Europe with users in the whole world.
Thank you, Olivier. And Martin, I saved the last question for you. Tough question, maybe. What do you think the opportunity is for certification bodies in particular to be signing up and using your platform? Because obviously in the certification world, quite a lot of the data originates at the certification body level.
Yeah, I think the challenge is that the entire history of certification was based on scope. Right, so you would scope a farm, you would scope a forest, you would scope a factory, and all these new regulations are based on products and transactions. So the certification bodies themselves don't have systems right now that have granularity of data to support the new regulations. So they have to either build those systems themselves, and then they have to figure out, okay, how do we get that information in a common schema to share with one another, right? So not only do they have to build the systems, but then they have to figure out how, SGS is going to share that information with Bureau Veritas and Bureau Veritas with Intertek. And it's just not realistic that they're going to go into each other's systems, right? So let's say that each of the 10 companies on this call get 10% market share for collecting this information. Most of these new regulations still need third-party assessment or third-party kind of verification of the data. So what Commonshare built is this system that's progressively decentralizing to ownership by the certification bodies and also to these traceability platforms if they become members of the system, so that when they submit data, it's against a common schema, and then it can be verified against that common schema. And that's really the only way we see this working, because we're just talking right now about a few commodities, right? Imagine that we're 5 years from now and everything in the world has to be traced, which it will, particularly with what's going on with tariffs and this insanity in the US. This is going to lead to a world where every single commodity, every single product is going to have to be traced. And if you actually think about what interoperability means when you get into a product that's not a commodity, I mean, even furniture is complex, but then think about an electric tea kettle or think about a car part. All of our systems that are competitors on this call will have to be interoperable with one another. How is that data going to be exchanged? How is the legal environment or the sovereignty of that data going to be assured for osapians to share data with Supply Logica or Supply Logica to share data with LiveEO? It has to be an independent, co-owned, co-governed ecosystem, but it has to be technically complex. So we see certification bodies using our system as a way to jumpstart that process and then integrating in the other traceability platforms as a neutral provider for this data exchange.
Thanks, Martin. Yeah, and a great way to end is to end with a really challenging question, I think. I'm going to hand back to Fabienne. Thank you very much, everyone, for your engagement and taking part, especially to our presenters this morning. And we will be doing all of this again this afternoon in European time. Thank you so much, Fabienne.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you to everyone. That was certainly an interesting teaser, right? Teasers are usually high level, but this already took you to some kind of in-depth. And here again, you see our 10 speakers. Thank you to all of them. Hopefully we'll have offer back this afternoon. We will share the recording. We will share their company informations, direct emails, so you can contact them directly. And this is also a very good example of how organizations come together really for the good of the cause. And here specifically, but not only, but here specifically today for the cause of forest protection. So it remains for me to invite you to an event that PEFC is organizing. It is our PEFC Forest Forum. This year it is taking place in Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. And there is a public day on the 8th of May around navigating global trade, how PEFC strengthens forest and business resilience. So I don't expect you to be there for that day, but my call is that if you have suppliers, if you have subsidiaries and entities or customers based in Vietnam, do invite them. You can scan the QR code here for that day for them to, as it's a great opportunity for them to learn about PEFC. And we have a huge, fantastic program and speakers laid out for you. And my last slide is again to say thank you. Get PEFC certified to enable you towards EUDR compliance. If you have any questions to PEFC, please contact us on eudr@pefc.org. Thank you very much to everyone. Take care. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.